Hi folks, thanks for joining me for this week's still water tutorial. In the vise is a variation on the ever popular Cormorant pattern, so without further ado, let's get into it. So what you see in the vise is a Hanak competition H 266. This one's at size 10. Now what you might notice, which you don't often see from me, is I've got a barbed hook in the vise, and that's because these flies aren't for me. I'm doing a favour for a pal who's got zero confidence in barbless hooks, and he asked if I could use some barbed hooks, and I said I would do that if I could share the pattern. So here it is. The thread I'm going to be using today is from Heron. It's their ultimate tying silk and it's in black. As always with the silk, first thing I'm going to do is put a little touch of super glue onto the shank of the hook, and then I can use my silk to spread that out. This just stops any body rotation in the fly. And I'm going to run my thread all the way up to the barb. I usually say approximately where the barb would be, but no need for that as we actually have a barb today. And then I can remove my thread. Okay, so far so good. Now the rib I'm going to be using is again from Heron. It's 0.14 and it's a silver wire. I've already got a little piece off that I've been working with, and I'm going to capture that in the entire length of the body. And then I'm going to come back to the base. Now the reason I'm using a barbed hook is because I'm tying these up for a friend who has got no faith in barbless hooks, despite the fact that I think they're much better. He wanted them on barbed hooks. Sorry, I've just dressed up the body material there and not shown you what I'm using. This is a heron feather, and I love using these because they've got lovely long fibres, and they're just dead easy to work with. So I'm going to catch the tip of that in at the end here and bring my thread to the front. I'm going to stop about 1/8 of an inch back from the eye of the hook, and I'm going to use my hackle pliers to bring that material around the shank. I mean, you could probably get away with your fingers, but I just think that you get a lot more control using hackle pliers. So bring that round all the way up, and because I've got so many fibres in, I'm getting really nice coverage of the shank, and the heron fibres look superb on this pattern. I mean, cormorants are a great pattern for fishing. You can fish them on your own, you can fish them in teams. I'm going to capture that in a good way back from the head. One of the biggest faults that beginners to fly tying make is not leaving enough room at the front to finish their flies, and that's why I'm always quite generous. You can always fill that gap, no problem at all. Then before I go on, I'll just have a quick tidy up of them little fibres, and then I'm going to bring my rib in the opposite direction to the way I brought the heron over. As I was saying, you can fish it on a long leader at still waters on its own, or if you're in a boat and you're fishing a team of flies, I often fish a bright attractor fly such as a blob on the top dropper, 2 cormorants in the middle, and then a booby or a fab on the point, which is a great fish finding cast. If you're out, you're not quite sure where the fish are, get it on a sinking line and just work the depths, and that's a great cast for that. Okay, so I've just twisted off my wire rib, and what I want to do is add a little bit of throat hackle. If you remember the fly in the vise, you'll see I've got a small throat hackle there. Now you can use Glow Bright floss. I haven't got any white, so what I'm going to be using is some of this Ghost Flash. I'm just going to take a little bit, it doesn't take much, a few strands. You might not be able to see it very well on the camera. Then I'm going to fold that in half, and then I'm just going to bring it round my thread in a loop. Sorry, I'll do that again. I've just noticed that wasn't on the camera. It's because there's not much screen here, so I usually bring it in down near the bottom, but I'm going to try and do it on the camera. So I've got my flash, and I'm going to lay it onto the thread. It's quite difficult to do like this, actually, like so. Then I can get a couple of turns to secure it into place. And I'm a bit at odds now because this is not how I usually tie, but there we go. So I've got that, and I only want a small throat hackle. Now you can rip this stuff, it's very easily ripped, but I prefer to just come in with my snips and remove that bit of waste. Now the fly does have cheeks, and I'm using some Comp Candy fluorescent Goose Biots. He did ask for jungle cock, but I've only got a little bit of jungle cock, so he's not getting it, he's getting the Goose Biots. So I'm going to catch in my Goose Biot, and I want the tip, I'll just lift it up so you can see it, to be just on the edge of my wire on this side. And the reason that I'm measuring it out like this is that I want all the flies to be the same. I don't tie for people very often, but he's a good pal and he's having some hard times, so I said I would do these sets of flies for him. On the other side, oops, I've got two Biots here, I'll just separate them. Because I've tied in the Goose Biot on my side, I can then just simply line it up, excuse my fingers, on your side, hold that into place, and then once I'm content it's in place, I can really clamp down on that. Now with Biots, there's a couple of ways of taking Biots off. You can either keep tension on your thread, twist it away, or if you've got the room, just come in with your snips and remove your waste. Just depends on how confident you are with twisting the Biots away. I often find they twist away no problem. So I'll just catch in the raggedy ends, bring my thread to the front of the eye. Next I'm going to use some Comp Candy. This is the Blackjack Marabou, and other than Dave Downey's there isn't much better than this. It's superb stuff. Now I've got a feather out the bag, and what I want to take is approximately a thumbnail's worth of the fibre from the stem, and I want to try and maintain these nice flowing tips. So I'm going to come back, put a little twist, just stops the Marabou going everywhere, and remove a large chunk. Then I'm going to damp down the end of the Marabou so I can just tidy it up even further. Now before I lash the Marabou wing to the head of the fly, I'm going to get plenty of wax on. There is nothing worse, and cormorants are the worst pattern. You go to tie them on, and if they've not been tied correctly, you end up with a wing in your hand and the hook in the other hand, which is not good. So just make sure you've secured that winging. Now I'm just going to build up my head, and then with my whip finish tool I can come in and finish the fly. Next then is, depending on what you want to do, I suppose, I always tie my cormorants to competition legal anyway. It's a small fly, and I'm going to use my thumb and forefinger in my right hand just to pluck away the excess Marabou. Never be tempted to come in with scissors on Marabou, always pinch. I'm just going to wet my thumb and forefinger, get the fly all tidy, everything back out the way, and that leaves room for me to add some Solaris bone dry to the head, or if you are a cement fan, you can get the cement out, and just once you've done this part, you can put it to the side to dry. I prefer the resin. It's just a lot quicker. So as soon as I've cured this, it can go straight in the fly box. There's no messing about. Putting it to the side to dry. If you've a mind to, you can give it a second coat, but for fishing flies, I don't really worry about it. The head won't disintegrate on you if you've done this. I've got 20 of these to do. I've done about 14 so far, and I'm doing them in little batches, but the guy's obviously got quite a lot of faith in this pattern. He didn't tell me what it was called, he just specified how he wanted it, and I'm sure he'll be very pleased. Thanks very much for watching. I hope it was of some use to you. It looks like a nice little pattern. I might have some for my own box. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please think about clicking that button there. I would really appreciate your support. See you all next time.